Hey guys, my name's Justin and welcome to Hillsboro, where we care about the design behind designer luxury. And if you do too, make sure to subscribe. I feel like all I do is dance now. So for today's video, I wanted to talk about some bags that would be a really nice option if you're maybe on like a limited budget and you wanted to see some things that are, under that 1,000 mark. I love the idea of being able to find something interesting, differently different.
Everybody's so creative.
Water.
But something that actually has like some design and interest to it instead of just like, oh, here's like a little Louis Vuitton toiletry case that you add a chain to, which like, if that's your jam, if you love that, go for it. It's not my thing though, but I'm happy for you. But I thought it would be fun to like talk about some like weird or just like interesting bags, maybe not like run-of-the-mill.
See how that looks like we probably wasn't supposed to do that? But we did.
There's gonna be some that are like pretty practical, but I mean, if you know me, you know I love things that are just like a little different, So, but let's just get started.
I know you probably don't understand what's going on, and neither do I, but we're gonna see how this turns out in the end.
So the first bag I wanted to talk about is from a brand called Innerraum Object I-35 Pochette. So this is a brand that's from Berlin, and you can kind of tell by the way this bag looks. It's a little, pochette, it's a little pouch, but it's like covered in paneling and layers, and it has this very like distinct like dystopian futurist kind of look, very industrial. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. I'm not saying like there's any sort of relation whatsoever, but like there's like a Balenciaga sneaker bag where it was like a deconstructed sneaker, which like I think was iterative of another designer who actually made bags out of shoes. But it gives that kind of feel where it's like it has these different mixes of different synthetic materials. I think all of the colorways that this brand does are genius though. I really like them. They have this kind of like darkness mixed with a bit of sportiness so it doesn't feel too heavy. But what I love about this bag is just the shape of it and really just the way that they treated the materials. I think whenever you're doing a bag with this kind of like mix of materials in this very like industrial way, the way that they added a little bit of softness through some of like, I don't want to call it puffiness because it's not soft because it looks like it's like molded plastic or something like that, but like the way they added like these almost like Baroque kind of like details where, Baroque, I don't know why I said that with so much like sass, but yeah, it is kind of like a Baroque kind of detail where there's like a lot of like richness, and if it was done in another way, I would say it would almost be gaudy, but the way that they bring it into this kind of like futurism, kind of like, I don't know, there's something about this bag that I'm like, the craftsmanship, the design work and planning, I'm like, this bag I think is kind of a steal. Alright, so this next bag I want to talk about is from a brand called Dentro. That's Spanish for like inside, right? So maybe they're Spanish? I don't know. So the bag I specifically want to talk about is called the Savvas bag. I think, at least, because when I'm like on the website, the full name of it is Savvas Brown Cuoio. Cuoio? Baroque. Of course, there's like a thick kind of like strap, like a tubular strap that you wear on your shoulder, but then it connects to a like trapezoidal bag. And it's like a very shallow trapezoid with like a little bit of flare happening towards the bottom, which I think is a beautiful shape in general. But then the thing that I find so exciting about this bag is that when you look at like luxury brands and they either show the process of how they make their handles or whatever, you would actually be surprised to see that a lot of brands, they use like clear PVC piping or tubing. Maybe it's not PVC because it's like the squishy kind, but like that's what goes inside of the handles. And I get like, maybe it's because it's like, it's flexible, it lasts forever because it's plastic, and then it gets wrapped in leather. It looks like what happens here, and what they say on the website, is that there's actually a cord that runs through the handle and it actually exits the bag. And I think it's so interesting that they like included part of like the construction of the bag as part of the overall design, a peek behind the curtains, right? Where like a lot of other brands maybe aren't so proud of it. I have a soft spot for when designers deconstruct whatever they're designing in a way so that it feels more intentional, and having that kind of intent kind of brought to the forefront I think is really admirable. It actually kind of reminds me of like a cow tail or something like that. Which I don't know what that says about like if you're wearing it, you have like the little cord from there like hanging down your backside and it's just like it looks like you have a tail. I don't know. I think that's very cute and it could work. So this next bag I wanted to talk about is from a brand that I literally never talk about because the only thing I ever really buy from them is clothes, and it's Diesel. Kind of like the Abercrombie of Italy in a way. That very gaudy branding. But then when you add into the mix Glenn Martins, who currently the brainchild of Y Project and then now the creative director of Diesel, when you add him into the mix, there's definitely some fun stuff that's gonna happen, and this bag is definitely a product of that. Now, I'm not crediting Glenn Martins to actually like designing or creating this bag, but like I do think that the brand direction that Glenn Martins has taken Diesel has meant that this kind of design is more possible now since they're kind of branching out and doing kind of weirder things. But this bag that I want to talk about is called the Play Bag. So as you can see, it is a crazy shape. It is cuckoo bananas. But then what I love about it is that in the description, of course in the name, you can see that the inspiration is taken from like a video game controller, which is incredibly fun and very like lighthearted. Having any sense of humor added into like any sort of designed object, beautiful. I love that. The idea of having something that's so interesting structurally come from a point of humor or a point of like almost like surrealism, I think is so interesting. You know how like Moschino loves like making objects into other objects, but then it still looks like the original object? I think this is like one step away from that. I'm sure there's other better examples that I could have chosen besides Moschino, but that's the one that came to my head. Came to my head. Is that the phrase? Came to my head. Came to my head. Came to mind. Came to mind. Came to mind. But yeah, that is just the example that came to my mind. Aside from the structure of this bag, it is just kind of like a weird shaped bag, but I still think that the shape of it in general is a good enough reason to call attention to it. This next bag I wanted to talk about is by no means new, from a brand called Building Block. And they're known for very like minimalist, very like, if you know the clothing brand Kos or Kos, I think they call it in the US. I know, I'm very European. It's not so much about being like trendy, but like they have some kind of like trend influenced minimalist pieces. It's under the H&M umbrella. Building Block to me is kind of like the perfect companion for the person who shops at Kos. They do very like geometric, very minimalist, pared down accessories, and they do them very well. And they have a really interesting design aesthetic that I think I used to be attracted to more, but I still think is really interesting. But the bag I wanted to talk about is called the Brick Bag. Is it? Yeah, it is. It looks like a brick because it's just a big rectangle. So of course we go from this like super curvaceous, very wild, like play bag from Diesel into something that's a little bit more minimal. But this bag has this kind of like juxtaposition between like the actual real world object of like a brick. You like lay down with mortar and stuff like that. But then the thing for me is that this is just like regular, like vegetable tanned leather or something like that. The way that they speak to it implies that it has the same kind of like treatment as like what you would say vachetta leather has from Louis Vuitton, where like when you use the bag, you create a patina using the oils from your hand or spills or water or anything like that. So this bag, which looks like perfect as it exists in this like really nice peachy beige kind of color, vachetta leather color, but then the whole bag is made out of it. And the idea is that like as you use the bag, you create this patina, and it's beautiful because you become a part of the material of this bag. Every little fingerprint, every spill becomes a little memory that's tied to the bag, and I think that's beautiful. I guess it is a little like humorous, is that it's just this like rectangle, and then like it looks very plain, but then like it's actually you after purchasing it and using it that's going to create like this other layer of beauty. Like you'll get more organic shapes, eventually there'll be even some sort of like patterning or I don't know, something like that. And to me that's what makes this bag really interesting. I don't own anything from them. My sister does, and she said the leather is quite stiff and firm, which like I know like isn't everyone's taste, but I do think that for these kind of like geometric structural kind of pieces, it does make sense. Alright, so this next bag I want to talk about is from a brand that I feel like we kind of talk a lot about, J.W. Anderson, and it's called the Bumper 17 Messenger Bag. If you have heard me talk about like the whole like puffy trend before, I like it when it's done like kind of in an interesting way, and for me the bumper bag was very interesting. Not to mention like Charlie XCX was someone who, I don't think she was a brand ambassador, but she was in one of the ad campaigns. But I love the idea of like the puffiness, the inflated part of a bag, just being on like the detail of it. Kind of like one of those like bumper boats. I guess also a bumper car, but I think bumper boat is more fitting because it has that inner tube kind of shape. But I never really was so interested in it because all they had were shoulder bags, and I know from experience like a shoulder bag is not gonna make me happy. But then they created this as a crossbody. And I know that if I were to buy this one, this would absolutely be like my like daily like basic bag because it's nice, but it's not too expensive, but it's also not like something like that I know is going to fall apart from daily use. And it comes in black, but then it also comes in like a blue and a purple, so there's options. I'll probably just get the black because I'm boring. But then one thing I find interesting is that you have like the soft like inflated details of like the tubular bits on like the actual bag that make like the bumper kind of silhouette, but then the strap has this kind of like utility feel since it's like, I don't know if it's like a jacquard specifically, the website doesn't say particularly, but it's just like the flat woven kind of strap that's very like utilitarian, very like sporty in a way. I love the contrast between that. Something about it that I like too is that it adds a little bit of masculinity. Not that I have an issue with wearing like softer things. I do like being able to like go back and forth and have it feel like still soft and delicate, but then also have like a little bit of this like hardness. That kind of like fluidity is really interesting to me right now. In general, I think this bag just executes it well so that it is just kind of like a non-gendered bag. Not like I believe that fashion has a gender, but like I do think it's wearable in any way. So this last bag I wanted to talk about is from a brand called Aesther Ekme. Aesther Ekme. I don't know. Listen, I come on here not knowing how to pronounce anything. I don't like to look things up because I just like have things in my mind of how things are said. So like if I say it wrong, I mean let me know, but also like please be nice about it. But yeah, so this bag is from Aesther Ekme and it's called the Soft Baguette. One thing about the shoulder bag kind of silhouette is that it typically does fall into a really nice price point. And I do know a lot of people love the shoulder bag kind of shape or way of wearing it. I'm gonna take a little bit from the website, but they do have like this architectural kind of like structured shape. It's soft though, but like it does have like a little bit of a frame around it. But then is the actual flap on top, which adds a little bit of fluidity, a little softness. And then the closure detail I think is interesting. It has that kind of like overlapping flap, which gives it that kind of fluidity, and then it has like little magnet closure. It's just like a very like soft, like very flirty bag in a way. Like when you see pictures of it, I think generally you'll see it styled in these kind of like, I don't want to call it like minimalist looks because I think like reducing everything to minimalist is kind of boring because there are details, but I do think that it's possible to mix this bag in with someone who has like a bit more of a bold kind of style. While there is like a lack of detail on the bag, I do think that kind of the structure and the contrast between like the shape of the bag versus the closure of it adds a little bit of juxtaposition, almost a little bit of humor, if that makes sense, where it's like, for sure, I'm like rigid on the outside, even though it doesn't look like it is. But then, and I don't think it is, but then it has like the softness on top. I just looked at a picture of it again. It does seem to like carry that shape, so I feel very justified in saying what I did. Yes, that does mean that I say stuff and then check it after I say it. Does that mean I have to re-record some things sometimes? Yeah. Is this too much information? Probably. Does that mean I'm gonna stop? No. Oh, but I'm gonna stop now, because that's all the bags I have. So, let me know what you guys think. Okay, let me know what you guys think. I love looking for bags that are like kind of like a better value than what we have on the market now, especially because like luxury has been like crazy when it comes to like the price jumps and the price hikes that have been happening. Like the fact that Chanel bags are like, what is it, the medium's like over 10K. It's like, okay, I'll just fall in line for a Birkin at that point. Not like I want a Birkin, but you know what I mean? Like, what the actual heck? I think this is the perfect time to invest in like smaller brands, into actually interesting designs, and maybe they don't have the history now, but if you invest in it now, make it into something that you cherish, it has the potential to have history. You know, that's how every bag becomes vintage, right? Someone buys it new, and then it becomes vintage. So if you invest in something now that you think, hey, I love this, I'm gonna keep this for a while, guess what? It'll have that history. Am I going on a rant now about sustainability? No. Would I like to? Yes. Do I love asking myself questions in front of a camera? Yes. I'm going to stop. Okay. My God. But yeah, let me know. Do you guys like any of these bags? Do you think there's any other bags right now that are like catching your eye? I love hearing from you guys. But that is all I have for you today. So if you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It lets me know that you like this kind of content, that you too care about the design behind designer luxury. Until next time, I don't know. Baroque. 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 I don't know why I said that with so much sass.